Hello and welcome to the WrestleTalk podcast. I'm Ollie Davis. I'm joined by Luca and DAD. If you haven't already, please press the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe wherever you're consuming this, not just on YouTube, but on podcast form in audio land of Spotify and iTunes. Apple Podcasts.
Give us a follow on both of those because you don't subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You follow. So give us a follow on your audio platform of choice.
And Tout, like if you're on Tout, you're watching this on Tout. I think you stalk. You stalk us on Tout. Stalk us on Tout over there. Give us a good stalk.
Yeah.
And tell all your friends to stalk as well. Today is the episode where we are going to be going through our predictions for Saturday night's main event.
Yep, we'll also be giving our review of AEW Dynamite and our predictions for Double or Nothing, which is coming this Sunday.
But we will be opening with our main topic, which is, maybe this is a controversial one. We've managed to beat 3 very controversial episodes in a row for our first 3 of these on Thursdays.
It's very WrestleTalk.
Yeah, we've done no AEW in episode 1. Hugely negative reaction to that.
Sorry.
We brought back AEW in episode 2, where the WWE fans were annoyed.
You kowtow to them.
And now we're going all the way to the other end of the annoyance spectrum by talking about how maybe, if you go by certain business metrics, which are highly contentious and have their own form of tribalism, maybe WWE's a bit overexposed right now with all the shows they've got, all the pay-per-views, all the affiliate brands, and with that increased exposure comes a spreading thin of their top drawers.
What I think is going to be sort of an interesting historical point to look at here, and I'm going to use this to put you over, if you don't mind.
I do not mind.
Do you remember when Tony Khan bought Ring of Honor? And everyone was mad excited about it. And then you did the WrestleTalk podcast where you said, I think this is a bad idea and it's going to distract Tony Khan from the AEW business thing. And it's going to lead to a downturn in AEW creativity and progress. And you were effectively proven right because that you can sort of, granted, I think Brawl Out is a much bigger point to look at, which comes a couple of months later.
Punk is the tip of the iceberg.
But you can make the argument that did desaturate some of the AEW brands, and Ring of Honor has become what Ring of Honor is. There are some people who really like it. There are some people you can make the argument of, well, they get better attendance from a Ring of Honor shows than they did back in the Sinclair era of Ring of Honor. Granted, it is not the 3rd most popular brand in North American wrestling, but also it's a very different wrestling landscape. But I think you can sort of look at WWE now in this TKO period. And I was listening to a podcast, Gorilla Position, which I think is a tremendous podcast here in the UK. And the host on there, James Healer, was like, I look back at that WrestleMania 40 build and I was like, I cannot believe how excited I was as a fan in that period of time. And I compare that to how I feel about the product in the build to WrestleMania 41 and what has come post WrestleMania 41. And I don't feel that same buzz. However, you can look at ticket sales and they're all great, this, that, and the other. And my thinking on that is like, yeah, but it's the same with AEW. In 2022, they were like super duper hot, and they bought, they bought Ring of Honor, and it seemed like a really good thing. But it's only in 2023 and 2024 that you really saw the ramifications of those decisions.
And with WWE being hot right now, it's not like they're having a lack of big time stories because we've got a John Cena heel turn. Mm-hmm. I feel like everyone's gotten that's been normalized very quickly, but that is one of the biggest things you could ever do in wrestling.
I think it's because the follow-up's not been great.
Yeah, and it's not been with The Rock. Thank you very much for putting me over. I think you might have retconned my Nostradamus skills too much. I don't think I ever said right in the moment that they bought a Ring of Honor that this is going to signal a downturn. I'm pretty sure I was like, I don't know, I've got a funny feeling about it. I don't know if this is a good idea. And then, like 6 months later, thinking about it, seeing what was happening, that's when I sort of got to that more solidified concern.
Again, I do want to stress, I think Brawl Out is a bigger moment than Tony Khan buying Ring of Honor in the parking lot.
But then you think, like, how much of Brawl Out was caused by management being split, having too many things on their plate, and sort of not dealing with certain backstage issues when they should have been dealt with. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of numbers that we can go through here, but weirdly, in this data-driven world, sometimes it's a bit of a vibes-based thing.
Yeah.
And that's usually where you get the indicator first. People always point to live ticket sales for the wrestling industry. Like, oh, the live ticket attendance is going down, and therefore in 4 months' time, those trends will be reflected in TV viewership as well. Because, it's more difficult for people to go out and spend their money and do a night out at a wrestling show.
You won't see, if there's a sort of a downward feeling on WWE at the moment, you're not going to see the results of that next week.
But I always think there is a pre-canary in the coal mine, and it's do they have canary in the coal mine as a saying in the States? Is this very very British?
Very British-centric phrase, the canary in a coal mine.
What it means, it's an early warning signal. It's an early red flag. Where it's from is when people used to work down in the mines in like the 2 BC, I don't know, and they're in Wales.
Yeah, I was going to say, this wasn't that long ago.
No, like
this is before Thatcher shut them all down.
3 millennia ago, all the trolls in Wales, they're digging, and you'll have a canary, and they're put them down there because it would die.
Yeah, well,
it would die first from any gas leaks. That's when everyone knew the canary stopped singing, let's get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the canary in the coal
canary
mine.
keeps singing. It's all fine down there.
Yeah. And those Welsh people, the dwarf Welsh, they'd whistle while they work.
This is already a contentious episode. I don't think we want to.
What? In 2025, what could possibly be contentious about Snow White?
I don't think you want to be making fun of an entire nation of very, very proud countrymen and women.
They're a different nation. I thought it's like a county of England, isn't it? My family are from Wales originally. It's all love.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to get to is there is a pre-canary in the coal mine here, and that's vibes. And it's very difficult to see because wrestling fans generally are quite critical and negative anyway. So I don't know how useful it is to just look online and go, well, people didn't like this angle or people didn't like that angle. But right now, I do feel like there is quite a consistent thing, and anecdotally, I feel it too, of a kind of malaise with WWE compared to how it was when it was super hot. When I think back of Punk and the Cody go home segment for Royal Rumble, and me just being on the edge of my seat every week, you get bits of that, like, oh, Bron Breakker's joined.
Yeah.
But then it kind of dissipates quite quickly, because you have a 3-hour SmackDown in between Raws.
Yeah, I think looking at sort of the feeling and the vibes on WWE is that it is not negative or critical. It's apathy. It's just a lot of like, yeah, it was fine. This is okay. A lot of like, it's the post WrestleMania lull, and
which is an annual occurrence,
a genuine thing. Like, interest in wrestling is from January to April, and then it just dips until you get back to January again, and it spikes back up. That is certainly for WWE. I think for AEW maybe it is just more of a straight line across the calendar year, but certainly with WWE, and we see it in our numbers. January is when you see the big spike, and it continues up through to April, and that's when it starts to trail off.
And that is kind of intentional. WWE literally save their biggest stars and feuds for certain points in the calendar year. Like, all of this debate might be vanished by July when we're in the build to the 2-night SummerSlam. That's a huge thing.
Which they will make a big deal of, because it's 2 nights.
And you'll have Cody Rhodes back. You'll have Roman Reigns back. But that is the problem right now. And we did get it a bit last year, post-WrestleMania 40, when Roman wasn't around and the Bloodline story was being carried by, the New Blood team.
Yeah.
Yet we don't have the 2 biggest draws in WWE from the last couple of years, Reigns and Cody.
Yeah, and what we've got but we've still got draws in the sense you've got Punk, you've got Seth. They're not on the Cody-Roman levels.
I think Punk is, but I don't think Seth is.
Yeah,
Seth's I'm not being critical. I'm talking about mega provable ticket shifters.
You put them on a poster and they shift tickets.
Whereas Seth, fantastic character, some of his best work's being done right now. Great faction with Paul Heyman. but he isn't the megastar like Cody and Roman or John Cena.
Yeah.
They've got John Cena most weeks, though.
They have got, and he's been wrestling. Well, it feels like, he was on Backlash. He's going to be on Saturday Night's Main Event this coming Saturday. Like, he's going to be likely on Money in the Bank as well. Like, he's doing more PLE and sort of, these big shows and stuff than the World Heavyweight Champion Jey Uso, who is a full-time roster member. He's doing more dates than he currently is. Jey Uso's had 2 matches since he's won the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania, and he's not won either of them.
So this is all
anyone,
vibes based, anecdotal so far, but there are some numbers that potentially lend support to those feelings. Over the last week or so, Raw has got its second lowest rating of the year on Netflix, and SmackDown has had its worst rating for the year. Again, this is Backlash season. This is the period after Mania.
You're almost expecting this to come.
Numbers come down. Year on year, though, these numbers are about 40% down on where they were in the previous year. Some of this might not be how hot the product is. This could be purely down to the distribution platform, because SmackDown was on Fox, a much bigger audience in far more homes, but now it's on USA Network.
Yeah.
And that has seen a 40% hit year on year. Raw was on USA Network, and you'd think Netflix, surely that's more homes in the US. Incorrect. It's fewer homes, and that has led, but the estimated numbers here, that Raw did under 1 million viewers in the 12th of May episode.
Yeah, but the argument that you can present as the counter to that is like in America.
Yes.
Like that is domestic numbers, where the whole point of the Netflix platform is that you now have this global reach for Raw, which you didn't have previously. Compared to the UK, for example, I don't know these numbers, but I'll have to look this up. But are there more homes in the UK that have Netflix than did Sky Sports or BT Sports? They're the 2 previous homes of Raw. So in the UK, maybe watching Raw, and we also get SmackDown and NXT here on Netflix, it is easier for us to watch those, which might mean that while US numbers are down because of the distribution platform, elsewhere in the world, they are peanuts on the up.
Yeah, and I guess it's what like TKO consider success. Is it a rising viewership base in the United States, or is it a rising viewership worldwide? Because I think worldwide they are definitely more watched. But just traditionally, it's always been about those US views because they are the best monetized, really, for business terms.
And that's the changing landscape of the world, right?
So where I think it's interesting is we know every year there is a lull in audience attention and WWE's own effort into its programming compared to the rest of the year from April to about June. Like we've seen, we've been doing this 8 years, and every year without fail, we panic because the numbers are down. It's post-Mania. It's like, that's the same every year. It's a trend. What I wouldn't do then in that instance is to cram loads more shows in.
Yeah.
And I think this is more of the we're not saying like WWE's bad right now. It's certainly not as good as it was pre-Mania, but that's to be expected. It's the decisions to keep SmackDown 3 hours. It's to run, I think, like a show every 1.7 weeks is what I worked it out as. From Backlash through to the 2-night SummerSlam, there is a main roster big event, be it a PLE or like a Saturday night's main event, under every 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that doesn't even include that big episode of Raw that's coming up on Monday 9th in Phoenix, Arizona. Shout out to my Noel fans out there who understand that reference. Where it's like they're probably going to be promoting that as a PLE style thing because that's got the World Heavyweight Championship match with Jey Uso and Gunther. It's also got a John Cena appearance on that show as well. So that's going to be a big newsworthy episode of Raw, presumably. So that's not. So what you're saying there is like these, like Money in the Bank and Night of Champions and Evolution 2, which is still yet to be confirmed. Those
two Saturday nights main events.
Two Saturday nights main events. That's just those. That doesn't even include these big episodes of Raw and SmackDown that they might be doing. And what I think that this is the result of you were hot the year previous. It's supply and demand. Last year in 2024, what people wanted was more WWE. We want more shows because we are loving this right now. So a TKO can look at that and be like, man, our attendance figures are through the roof. Our revenue is through the roof. Our merchandise is through the roof. So the response to that is, Do more of it next year. Do more shows, because that is more ticket revenue. That is more merchandise sales. The problem that might become or create is that's when you become oversaturated. You give the audience too much of it, which means that fewer people go to those things and the demand becomes lesser. And this is exactly what happened with AEW. When they started, they were doing 10,000 seats every single Dynamite, more or less, give or take. They were starting off super duper hot. So the following year, let's book more 10,000 seat buildings. But as that declines, all of a sudden you're getting 2,000 people in a 10,000 seat building. So now they've had to pivot to doing those smaller buildings, which now make it feel more full. The idea being is you rebuild to try and get yourself back to that 10,000 mark again.
And it also stretches you creatively. Like, there's only so many ideas, or so many, Paul Levesque's been doing this for 2-3 years solid now.
Yeah.
And it's only going to become more difficult when you have a big show that you've got to put a big match on to get people to watch. Again, every 1.7 weeks. It means you're going to get a lot, I guess, a lot of repeated matches, or you'll burn through rivalries that you would previously save for later in the year. I don't think, you've got to have gears to this sort of thing. And I think you're probably right. These decisions were made last year in TKO's terms. Okay, once WrestleMania's out the way, considering all the success we've had, let's put loads of shows on.
Yeah. Okay, if I can push back slightly on your point there, I think one of the benefits that WWE have in the Levesque creative era are those 5-match cards. Because you're only doing 5 matches on a show, you are not going to burn through your big matches. If you had 8-match cards on all of those shows, then 100%, which actually is what happened in the Vince era, because there was a point in the Vince era in 2006, 2007, they were doing shows all the time.
There was and the brand split,
there was a period of time where they were doing like pay-per-views. There was like a Raw pay-per-view, then 2 weeks later there'd be a SmackDown pay-per-view, then a week later there was an ECW pay-per-view, in sort of like that December period. Or there's a joint Survivor Series, then it's December, then a week later it's Armageddon. So you cram too much in, and those were 8-match cards where you burnt through things. But with a 5-match card, you don't have to have Jey Uso wrestle on Money in the Bank, because you can save that match for Raw. You don't have to have these tag title matches here, because you can save that for Saturday night's main event down the way. And that means you can stretch out. It's the same with, Rusev. He's come back. He's had 1 match and 3 backstage segments, but it doesn't feel like we've not had Rusev on TV, because you are stretching out quite, I think, smartly in some cases.
Well, there is I don't know if this is a dead canary or if it's like an ill canary, or it's got something in its throat and it can't sing as well. And this is the NXT show that's been cancelled. So again, it's part of this TKO looking at stuff and going, well, there's huge demand here. Let's book loads of shows for 6-9 months' time, and presumably there'll be the same amount of demand. This weekend, we've got Saturday night's main event. There's the NXT Battleground show on Sunday. There's the Raw on Monday, and there's NXT on Tuesday. All 4 of those were going to take place in the same venue, the Younglings Center, which is in Tampa.
Don't let Anakin Skywalker near that place.
He hates Younglings. And not the Younglings, Anakin.
Who murdered Younglings.
But what a film.
If you haven't seen, that's a reference to our first episode of the Rise and Fall of Nexus.
I feel like we're referencing the prequel trilogy so much right now. It is living in our heads rent-free.
Yeah.
But yeah, these that they had this WWE Weekender thing. It's a 4-day weekend where you can go every night for 4 consecutive nights. And Saturday night's main event, Raw, sold really well. Like pretty much sold out, 10,500 seats. Like, great sign, that's great business. TKO, success. The NXT PLE Battleground, that's done 6,000 tickets. That's also really good.
Really
that's
good.
NXT. But the NXT on Tuesday, which will be broadcast live on the CW as normal, has only sold 1,700 tickets. And it's a 10,500 capacity arena. So WWE have cancelled that show with a week to go. Not cancelled it, they'll probably broadcast it from the Performance
Center. Yeah,
Center.
there's something in the Performance Center instead.
But yeah, it's I don't know right now whether that is just they just got a bit too excited and this is the annual lull after Mania, and come SummerSlam, everything's on the up again. Or if this is the sign of TKO rinsing what they thought was a successful business when the demand has reduced. And, you look at the ticket prices as well.
But yes, that's the other side.
That they are squeezing every cent out of the fans right now, and it's working. And that will work until it doesn't work anymore.
That's exactly it. And that's what I'm saying is like you're not going to see the results of this oversaturation, if you want to use that word, next week. You're not going to see it in 2 weeks' time, 2 months' time, 4 months' time. You're going to see it in 2026. You're going to see it in 2027. That is when you will see the effects of the business decisions they've made here in 2025. Or maybe they made in 2024 to be implemented into 2025. And that is doing more shows. And with the NXT, they've actually stopped branding them as NXT shows. They're branded as WWE shows. As what led to the confusion of Worlds Collide. People thought it was a tri-brand event of AAA, NXT, and WWE. But it's not. It is a WWE. They're branded as WWE NXT. So that's where, so that could be looking at, it's like, maybe this is not as hot of a brand as we thought. But also, like, they've got a history of that. Remember they did that show in St. Louis when they first went to the CW, and it had Randy Orton on it, and that didn't sell particularly well either.
Well, let's get on with the other brand, AEW Dynamite.
Welcome to Brainbusters.
I'm out here guessing Greek titans! Oh, no! What?
In a world where wrestling and game shows should never go together, WrestleTalk presents a wrestling game show. No, not that one. Another one. From the people who brought you that other one comes Brainbusters.
Is this allowed?
Coming Saturday, May 24th, to a YouTube near you.
I thought this episode of Dynamite that we're going to jump onto now was, and I'm going to say this is the politest way I can do it, and I mean this as a huge compliment of this show, a functional go-home show for a pay-per-view.
Oh, okay. I didn't know where you were going to go with that.
In that, I don't think this was a blow-away episode of Dynamite, but you can look at every segment and be like, all right, that builds the pay-per-view, that builds the pay-per-view, that builds the pay-per-view. Functional and thumbs up for that, but not must-see television.
There was a Ricochet Anthony Bowens match, and it was good. Ricochet wins, and then he goes to the stage, and Mark Briscoe appears behind him with a stretcher because they're having a stretcher match. I was like, this is functional.
Yeah, it leads you to the spot where Mark Briscoe then puts him on the stretcher and sets up to hit the froggy boat, and Ricochet gets it off because you, the consumer, now must buy the pay-per-view.
Ricochet gets off.
He gets off on stretchers, yeah.
Oh my God.
And so it's now you as the consumer have got to buy the pay-per-view to see Mark hit that spot. They did it in the segment with Kenny Omega, like, setting up, teasing the idea of doing a one-winged angel off the stage through a table, but they get off. You don't get that spot. But if you buy the pay-per-view, you will get to see that spot. Functional go-home booking.
I don't know if it was like missable as you say, because the opening segment I think is one of the better promo segments of the whole year.
I actually did text someone this morning to be like, this was one of the if you haven't already, watch this segment. I think this is the segment to watch. If you haven't watched anything from Dynamite, this segment is fantastic.
So it's Will Ospreay and Hangman Page. They're going to have an in-ring promo, and they're going to now main event Double or Nothing. They are the Owen Hart Cup finalists. Winner gets a shot at Jon Moxley at All In. And the security surrounding the ring, you think, is this going to be a brawl? And right away, Ospreay totally subverts what you'd expect from a go-home promo segment. He says, look, listen, bruvs, go to the back. I'll make sure you get paid, but I'm not going to fight. You going to fight, hangers? Nah, you're not right. And he gets some beers. Like he says, do you still drink, Hangman? Yeah. And everyone's like, ooh, he's got a problem.
But he's like, look, I'm not trying to make it a problem. I just wanted to ask, because I think we can have as Julia Donaldson would write, a cat-to-cat chat.
What?
Have you not read Tabby McTat? Tabby McTat had a cat-to-cat chat.
No, because I'm 37. I don't just read children's books.
You should see the BBC iPlayer, the BBC adaptation they did of it. It's superb.
Maybe I'll get to it after I've watched all series of Peacemaker and anything for adults.
Yeah, I don't want to jump to the recommendations portion of this podcast. Just
spoiler. So, he gets beers, and they essentially have not friendly, a respectful chat between two baby faces who want to get the belt off Moxley.
Yes.
And they're like, that Ospreay's big point is, because Hangman's quite resistant at first, but I think he comes around to it character-wise. I want to win the championship so I can go into Forbidden Door in my home, 30 minutes down from where I grew up, and show all the people who supported me, I'm the champion. I did this for you. Thank you. But kind of more importantly, we need to decide out who the best man is between us to save AEW from the Death Riders.
Yeah, because I know that you, Hangman Page, can beat Jon Moxley. I don't know if I can, but I know that you can.
Well, he said he never has. He said, I've wrestled him twice and I've lost.
So if I can beat you when you're at your best, when you are Hangman Adam Page, then I'll know I can go into All In Texas and I can win the AEW World Championship. I thought that Ospreay was superb. Also, he shouted out Bethnal Green. He shouted out York Hall.
He said York Hall. He said the Electric Ballrooms as well, which is where Progress used to run, or maybe still do in Camden. But he also talked about Hangman, you got a bad side. Maybe I need that bad side, the side that injects Swerve in the face. Maybe I need that side to be able to beat Moxley because my superhero act of being the good guy hasn't worked so far.
Yeah.
Let's find out. It's a clash of wrestling philosophies, and it's very character based. Not only is it going to be a fantastic wrestling in-ring match, they've now built this story around. Yeah, kind of the biggest story you can tell. What is the right way to be a wrestler?
Yeah, and also it makes the world title feel like
Yeah.
the most important thing in the company, which it should do. And I think that is one of the things that people have sort of rallied against this Death Rider storyline, is it has not made the title feel important. It kind of doesn't feel, because I suppose because
You never see it.
you never see it, which is supposed to be the point, but I don't think that's ever really gotten over with the crowds. But I think these two guys in this ring, and then particularly Hangman Adam Page, because he cut this promo, and it's one of those Hangman Adam Page promos where you're like, oh yeah, you are the greatest babyface in the history of professional wrestling. You are magic at this, because he just is this incredible character that ties in everything that happens in ring into his personal being. And it's so special when he cuts these sorts of promos.
Yeah, when Ospreay said that he wants to win it to show his kid when he goes back to the UK, Hangman's like, I don't want to win it. I need to win it because my children, they're like, where's my father now? The last 2 years have been awful for him. He had this line where he said, I need to win it so my wife sees the person that she fell in love with again.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, have you been hanging out with the Sentry?
Again, I don't want to. Maybe we're jumping ahead to recommendations, are we?
I saw Thunderbolts last night.
But I love the line where he said, "I think back to Christmas, and my children are opening their presents and they're playing with their new toys, and I'm not looking at them. I'm staring out a window, looking for where the man I used to be is." And I just he's so good at these visual, these images, and that there takes you back to when Hangman burnt down Swerve Strickland's house, and he's just sat in that chair, just staring off into the middle distance, drinking. And you're like, yeah, he probably looked like that, but it's his child that's playing with a new toy.
I know, I'm not like a mental health expert or anything. I don't know if the world title will solve that.
It might do.
It's a great character story beat, but they rarely say external prizes what will help you internally.
Well, maybe if they started doing that, that is what will fix the mental health.
If every Gen Z millennial won a championship belt, maybe. Well, but they bloody tried that, didn't they? With all the participation trophies.
Well, that's the problem, wasn't
That'll
it?
make them feel better.
Because you just handed them out. It made people weak.
It was an excellent go-home segment. Ended with the
loved it.
line from Will Ospreay, "Come Sunday, meet me in the desert. I'm calling you out for a shootout, bruv."
Yeah.
Oh, and Ospreay also did say that he's the best effing wrestler in the world.
Did drop an F-bomb.
Which is a swear word.
It is. And I would put money on he wasn't supposed to. And that is just
He got excited.
That is just Will getting excited, and that is just how Will talks.
Jon Moxley and the Young Bucks then had a trios match against Samoa Joe, Powerhouse Hobbs, and Swerve Strickland. Really good stuff, of course.
Yeah, great.
It was just more chaos to build at the end. So the faces won, but then the heels had a beat down. Everyone runs down. Willow runs down. Kenny runs down. That's when he teases putting Matt Jackson through a table with the one-winged angel. But the heels Scarpa, and Joe says, I promise you, by the end of tonight, we will kill you. Yeah. We won't wait till Anarchy in the Arena.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a nice little thing to start spinning. I was a bit disappointed with the Hurt Syndicate segment.
Yeah.
This was MJF. It was the contract signing to bring him in. And it ended up being a promo for Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara.
I think my overall takeaway of MVP and AEW at the moment is that, there's no script in AEW, but sometimes that means that you can just chat whatever you want.
MVP's going to talk over you.
Yeah, and he will just chat. And he doesn't care what you're planning to say when you come out. He's going to have a chat.
He's going to shoot on Albuquerque.
He's going to have a
while you're shooting on Albuquerque.
He's going to have a cat-to-cat chat. Even if you
don't know what that is.
It's no Snail and the Whale, but it's pretty good.
What? You're just saying animals.
Is that
what children's fiction is?
Yeah, it's just words and animals.
And anthropomorphic vegetables.
As long as they rhyme.
So this was that they built up the signing. Bobby hesitated, and then they signed it. And there were two lawyers then. I was like, the lawyers are there for a reason. There's going to be a secret clause in the contract.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting for, especially because MVP teed up the segment with, we're going to introduce a new member of the Hurt Syndicate. And I was like, and herein lies the swerve. It's not going to be MJF. It's going to be Cedric Alexander or, do. But no, it's just MJF, which is grand and it's fine because that's what we have been building to. Thumbs up from me. But also, I was waiting for the shoe to drop. Is that the phrase?
And I think everyone in the crowd was as well.
Yeah.
So they were a bit confused when Dustin Rhodes came out to cut what to him, as always, is the promo of his life.
Yeah.
He's given it his all, and everyone's like, "Well, I respect you, Dustin, and I mean you're delivering it well, but." We were watching the MJF stuff.
Yeah.
We don't actually care about your tag title match at Double or Nothing.
When the music hit, I think everyone thought it was like, and here's the fourth member. And I really enjoyed Dustin Rhodes when he said, I'm going to butcher it ever so slightly, when he talked about the first Double or Nothing. He said, it was an unforgettable night that people will always remember.
That's a brilliant line.
And you could see, as he started to say that everyone will always remember, he was like, uh-oh. There's no eject button for this, so I'm just going to say it, but I'm not going to be as convincing as I was at the start of the sentence.
Okada has been called out by Speedball. They'll have a match at Double or Nothing. Okada had a fun backstage bit with funny, doesn't care Okada character work. The Anthony Bowens Ricochet match, which we've already covered. Ricochet beat Bowens with the scissors, but then you had the stretcher angle with Mark Briscoe. Stokely and FTR set up a contract signing for tonight's episode of Collision. And then we got Mercedes Moné and Jamie Hayter doing their version of the Ospreay Hangman promo.
Yeah.
And we have Renee in the ring to adjudicate. And yeah, it was good. It was just like, because it was so good between Ospreay and Hangman, this one didn't feel as hot.
It didn't feel as real. This felt this felt more scripted pro wrestling, and it was good scripting. I thought Jamie cut a very good promo. Mercedes cut a very good promo. I think Jamie sort of goading her into being like, "Oh, you seem lighter." Does everyone else notice she feels lighter? It's because you're missing something. You lost the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, and that led to them having a brawl. So it's good, and it's a very functional go home segment, but it didn't have the emotion that the men's segment did with Hangman and Ospreay, which it can't really.
Jamie stood tall, though. Monet jumped her, and then Jamie hit her with a lariat, and then Toni Storm's music hits. I was like, oh, where's this going? Oh, she's going to be ringside for the next match, which is Mina Shirakawa versus Julia Hart.
Yeah.
So a nice blend and weave of the women's division.
Yeah, and also because the winner of this will likely face Toni Storm at All in Texas.
And yeah, I was just really happy for Mina Shirakawa and kind of excited about the confidence AEW have in her. Even though this didn't turn out to be the main event bit, I would argue.
It was the main event match.
It got the main event spot. Like it finished on the 2-hour mark. The overrun was the closing angle. But yeah, Mina Shirakawa, the crowd were going crazy for her.
Proper music.
This is awesome chant without a double down. That means it's a genuine this is awesome chant.
So interestingly, that chant came after a botch.
Oh, right.
So Mina Shirakawa went to do like a diving crucifix bomb, and they kind of bollocksed it, basically. And I think that this is a very interesting AEW crowd. Now they are in these smaller buildings that I think you can compare to those WWE crowds that you had last year that were just I will cheer the babyface and I will boo the heels. I will play along because it's really fun as an audience to play along with the wrestling that you are doing, as opposed to the crowds in 2019, which is like, we don't like this show, so we're just going to have our own fun.
You effed up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But this is a crowd that wanted this to be a good show and wants AEW to succeed. So after a moment like that, it is like, no, this is awesome. We are getting a good match here.
Yeah. Mina looked fantastic, and she was so over with the crowd. And I feel like, yeah, she's immediately a top star. I hope she stays that way.
Me too.
Because the AEW do have a bit of a track record of bringing in a Deonna Purrazzo, saying she's the biggest thing, and then bloop, down the card you go.
Unfortunately. Where's she been?
But yeah, she won. Julia sort of was slightly protected with she sold her leg off a missed moonsault. Technical pin to win. Then Julia Hart starts beating down Mina. Mina reverses it into a figure four. Sky Blue runs down, putting together Sky Blue and Julia Hart again after her return the previous week. Storm saves Mina, and then they start wrestling over the belt. I was like, is this a meta Tony Storm joke about the worst go home segment of all time? But then it got a bit more physical, and it ends with Mina putting the figure four through the post.
Yeah, love Tony. Great spot. Really enjoyed that, because it's what I liked about the finish of the match is that it's building upon the finish of the four-way last, which is that Mina reversed the big package to pin Tony Storm. And so here again, Mina reversed Hart's offense into a pin. So that's what she has over Tony Storm, is her ability to reverse your moves into pinning combinations, which Tony Storm has fallen foul of previously. Tony Storm also referenced the new music on commentary. She said, whatever happened to that song that she came out to last week? I really enjoyed it. So I thought it was a really catchy beat.
So then that's 2 hours. It's like 2 hours, 1 minute into the show. So it's over, right? And
that's what the Bucks thought.
The Bucks are leaving. They're like, we're going home. The show's over. Renee's like, interviewing them backstage. And Matt Jackson brilliantly says, Joe promised to beat us up by the end. I guess you're a liar, Joe. And then Joe appears with all the other baby faces, and they brawl around the ring. And weirdly, AEW kayfabe-wise, a production member goes, well, we should play the outro music.
Yeah, play Song 41.
And they just played the Dynamite theme while everything was going crazy.
Because that's anarchy in the arena.
Yeah.
You play someone's entrance theme, or you play a song while all the brawl's going on. It's the final countdown ringing out as Bryan Danielson's battering someone in the ring.
And then that stops when Gabe Kidd turns up. They cut the music. And then the heels get on top. The Bucks do stereo elbows off the top ropes through tables on the outside with Omega and Swerve on. And, exactly what you want to do. Like you said, this is a very functional, effective sell of anarchy in the arena at Double or Nothing. They didn't tease Eddie Kingston at all.
Well, of course not. He's hurt.
But he might be ready.
Yeah, might is a big term there.
He's been off for like a year and a half now.
Yeah, and because he got really badly hurt, and the report at the time was he's going to be out for a long time.
And a long time is a year. A year, 2 months. Surely he's okay by now. Because, of course, it only clicked with me when Gabe Kidd turned up. Who injured Eddie?
Well, okay, so maybe he's there at Double or Nothing then. Maybe that's, you got to buy the pay-per-view to get the return of Eddie.
Mm-hmm. But they've not set that up. So I think it's like, if it does happen, it's a surprise spot.
Yeah.
But it makes total sense because it was that Gabe Kidd match with Eddie in New Japan Strong last January.
I did not, because I completely wrote Eddie being a part of this off. And I thought that actually the commentary did a really good job of convincing me otherwise, because they were like, man, Gabe Kidd and Kenny Omega have been at a war of words over in New Japan, so that's why Gabe Kidd is here. That is a beautiful little red herring to make me forget about Eddie Kingston. So maybe you're right. I thought it was going to be Darby Allin has skateboarded his way down Mount Everest so he can get back in time for Double or Nothing.
Well, speaking of Double or Nothing, should we do our predictions? You too can compete against us in wrestling predictions if you go over to WrestleTalk.com/league. Over there is Wrestle League, where we all enter our predictions and compete against each other. There's like 8,000 people on there, including us.
And so many WWE shows coming up. There's going to be lots of points to earn from Wrestle League.
Right, so Jamie Hayter versus Mercedes Moné in the Owen Hart Cup final.
Yeah, I'm a little head and heart on this one because I want it to be Jamie because I think you can then do Monet and Athena for the TBS Championship in Texas at All In instead, and you can do Hayter and Storm. But Hayter standing tall on the Go Home show makes me think that it's going to be Mercedes Monet.
I think All In, it's their biggest show this year, really. I think you finally want to do the title versus title. It's not title versus title, but is Mercedes going to win all the championship belts? So, yeah, I'm going Monet as well. We've got the Hurt Syndicate versus the Sons of Texas, Dustin Rhodes and Sammy Guevara.
Yeah.
A match that was set up 10 days before 8 days before the pay-per-view.
Yeah, I thought that they might save this match for All In Texas, but no. I'm going with the Hurt Syndicate. I don't think Dustin and Sammy. There's a nice, symmetry of like they were on the first Double or Nothing while the Hurt Syndicate weren't. But I think the Hurt Syndicate retaining here.
It's a story that doesn't feel substantial because MJF is with the Hurt Syndicate and he is a day one AEW star. Timeless Tony Storm versus Mina Shirakawa. Can I go first? Oh, no.
You're not going to say something silly, are you?
No, because I was going to say Mina Shirakawa.
Why?
Because she's just come in. She's been around for ages. I think she's really connecting with the crowd. I think you could make her a megastar. Tony Storm's had the belt since, February? Mm-hmm. Not every reign has to be 3 years long.
No.
Just put the belt on Mina. Where it falls down is Mercedes Moné versus Tony Storm.
I was about to say, you literally just said your biggest show of the year, your stadium show, you want to have the biggest match, and that is Storm versus Moné.
Can't have both.
You can't have it both ways.
Wait. Didn't Mina beat Moné for the New Japan Strong title?
No, I don't know. Who did win that
Who's
title?
the New Japan Strong?
Azumi.
Oh, was it? Was Shirakawa in the match?
Yeah, yes, I think she was. I think she was the person who got pinned. Because Moné's whole deal at the moment is that she's not lost singles competition because she's lost a tag match.
Yes, damn it, because you could have told the story that Mina has Moné's number, but she didn't pin her. All right, okay. All right, you're right. Tony Storm, same with you.
FTR versus Garcia and McGuinness.
It's got to be FTR, hasn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Their new heel act is really good. Stokely as the manager, he'll likely interfere.
Yeah, there's a feel-good moment you can do for Nigel McGuinness getting the win, but I think the smarter money maybe is the FTR win here and hit the spike pile driver on Nigel.
Mm-hmm. Mark Briscoe Ricochet stretcher match.
I'm going Ricochet.
I am going to go Briscoe.
Huh.
And I know Ricochet's been doing all-time great heel work, but he is a goofy character, and I don't think he loses anything. Like, it's a kind of nice receipt for the heel to get humiliated, put on the stretcher.
True, but it's Mark Briscoe, so he's put in matches to be pinned. So I think, and actually doesn't have to get pinned here. If I may though, I hate a stretcher match. This feels so Vince era WWE. I don't know, and I know they had stretcher matches before the Vince era WWE, but it feels so wrestling and just so like, I don't know, naff. A stretcher match. I was also doing an ambulance match or something equally as nonsense.
Yeah, so you're going to put them on the stretcher?
Yeah, you got to put them on the
then
stretcher
load them into an
load them
ambulance.
into an ambulance. Then the ambulance drives away. It just feels so cartoony.
But that's Ricochet right now.
I guess. But he's also stabbing people with scissors, which does not feel that cartoony.
I didn't say it was a kid's cartoon. Anarchy in the Arena, which I cannot wait for. It's Kenny Omega, Swerve Strickland, Willow Nightingale, and the Ops, Joe, Hobbs, and Shibata. So 6-person teams versus the Death Riders of Moxley, Claudio, Marina, and Yuta, and the Young Bucks. Wait, no Gabe Kidd?
Well, that's it. Gabe Kidd's not in the match, but obviously, and I was surprised that Gabe Kidd was not in the match, but I think that's because you are absolutely right. They will need someone to come down to the ring to neutralize the Gabe Kidd situation. I think you've absolutely nailed it, and I cannot believe I did not see it coming.
It just came to me when I saw him come out the crowd on this episode. I never once thought it last week when he first showed up. I'm going to go baby faces. I think you have a babyface win, and that sets up the fall of the heels over the next couple of months.
I agree, particularly if you've got the Eddie return. The babyfaces should win.
Yeah.
I'm going team babyface.
Okada versus Mike Bailey.
Mike Bailey. No, I'm kidding. It's Okada.
It's Okada.
Because you're doing Okada Omega at All In. So Okada should win here.
It'll be interesting to see how their styles mesh.
Yeah.
Mike Bailey, who puts in a lot of effort against.
3-star Okada.
And
I'm so I'm so torn on this one. I knocked my microphone.
the main event of Hangman Page versus Will Ospreay. The winner, it's the final of the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament, and the winner earns the AEW World title shot against Jon Moxley at All In. So you got to think this is the person who will dethrone the Death Riders.
Well, that's it. But there's always that Darby Allin question
Oh.
mark of this whole storyline was designed to give Allin the belt.
Bug off back to October 2024.
But that's what I mean. Is like, are we all just moving past that? Because I feel like I have. I think I've moved past the
I
Darby
never
Allin.
got on it.
Well, I know you did. That's because you're weird and don't like Darby Allin. But like, I think it's. Yeah, I think it has to be Ospreay, because I think having Ospreay go into Forbidden Door as the world champion at the O2 would be incredibly special. Having said that, we also said that when Will came into the company last year before All In at Wembley Stadium. We're like, well, surely Will have the belt going into All In at Wembley, or he's going to win the belt at Wembley in All In. So is it just our country pride and the fact that we just love Will so much that makes us think it's going to be Will? Or is the bigger match to do the redemption of Hangman Adam Page in Texas?
In his home.
Well, no, he's from Virginia.
But he feels like a cowboy.
Yeah.
His spiritual metaphor home is the desert, I guess.
You could possibly spin it that way. I guess if you wanted to spin it any way you could, that is a way to do it. But I really...
I said yesterday on a Patreon call that I'm going Hangman, but now after that segment, I'm going Ospreay.
I think I have to go Ospreay as well, but I genuinely don't know. I'm so torn in this match.
I think it's time for him to be the top guy in a promotion, in a United States major promotion.
I think this is my most anticipated match of the year so far. In terms of going into a pay-per-view, desperate to see a match.
Yeah.
This is the one for me this year, is Hangman and Ospreay. It's the match out of any promotion in America and even here in the UK. I haven't felt this excited about a match on a pay-per-view.
And so excited that we'll even still be excited 8 hours into a pay-per-view when it finally comes on.
Hey, Will even told you up front, I'm going to be following Anarchy in the Arena. I'm going to be following 3 hours of wrestling because that's what I do on Will Ospreay. There are 2 other matches that have come out of Collision. So there's the Paragon versus Don Callis family in trios action, I would imagine.
So I say Callis family there.
Yeah, I'll say Callis family because I can possibly set up some TNT stuff with Adam Cole. And there's Penelope Ford and Megan Bain versus Harley Cameron and Anna Jay.
Oh, that's tricky. I'll go with Bain and Ford
Me
because
too.
Bain's got bigger prospects. Oh, Harley Cameron's great, but I don't think she needs that win.
I think that'll likely be on the pre-show because you don't have 3 women's matches on the main card.
The night before, though, is Saturday night's main event. Let's do those. There's only 4 matches. Jey Uso versus Logan Paul.
Jey Uso.
Yeah, it's Jey Uso. CM Punk and Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker.
Seth and Bron.
Yeah, it's got to be because this is their first time as a team in a match. They're the new heel act. They should be a coherent thing. They need to win that first one. John Cena, R-Truth? Tricky.
Well, now that certainly I know it's not for the title,
Oh, you think Truth wins?
No, I don't. I think Cena wins here, but I would not be surprised if this actually isn't a match at all and it's just an angle, and they just do Cena just does a vicious beatdown angle.
That'd be cool. To build the tag match at Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for our 3-count Money in the Bank predictions this Sunday.
We've both gone for a very similar direction of what that tag match might be.
And Damian Priest, Drew McIntyre, the thing I'm looking forward to most,
Me
in
too.
a steel cage match.
And I don't know on this one either. You kind of attribute to this as a sort of a rubber match of sorts because Drew won at Mania and then Priest stopped Drew winning at Backlash. So maybe, and this is like the final of their trilogy.
I've changed my mind. I think Priest wins here to set up, I don't know, a third Well, that's the problem. In my GM mode, the steel cage match blows it off.
Well,
there's no rivalry there anymore.
Well, there is a potential. There is a worldview, to use a phrase that my wife absolutely detests, where Damian Priest wins here, and then they're both in Money in the Bank, and Priest stops Drew winning Money in the Bank for a second year in a row, and then they have the blow-off match at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
And
That's a very Levesque booking.
Yeah. So I'm going for Damian Priest here.
I'm also going for Priest. Recommendations for this week. What have you got? Anything you've enjoyed this week?
Well, unfortunately, the recommendation that I have to give is not widely available to watch
What a hipster.
yet. I'm going to be messaging people to try and get a match from last week's Hustle show here in London added to their YouTube channel.
Ah, cool.
So there was a tag match last week between Lions Pride and Tony Harlow and Neon Cassius for the tag titles. That was such a fun match. It was so brilliant. But the reason why I want people to see this match is because it really does show that you can build to a hot tag using very traditional methods. And if a crowd wants to see it as much as this crowd wanted to see that Cassius hot tag, I was speaking to some of the people that work at Hustle, and I was texting them over the weekend, and they were telling me the crowd was rabid during that match. It was you could feel the building shake. There were so many people who were desperate to see that hot tag. It was absolutely incredible. So
something about Cassius. People just want to see him wrestle.
Yeah, and it's wild because you then go to Riot Cabaret where he's like one of the top heels with Nina Samuels. But I really want people to see this match because it was so much fun. So I'm basically making it my quest now to get Hustle to add it to their YouTube channel so I can have a full recommendation for it.
A worthy endeavor. Everyone, get your tickets for the next Hustle show.
Oh man, yeah.
Next month.
Well, yeah, because it's Sid and Rain Leverkusen going for the tag titles against Lions Pride, which they actually had a great main event as well. Rocco and Rain Leverkusen. You can go onto their YouTube channel and watch the Tate Mayfair's Sid Scala match.
Oh, what a match!
So not the street fight they had, but the first one that they had, which set up then the tag match, would then set up the big street fight they had. But that first match, that sort of half-hour technical brilliant match they had. Go and watch that because it was an awesome match.
My recommendation, I might have set it up earlier. I saw Thunderbolts last night. Thunderbolts.
Asterisks.
What a fun reveal
Asterix
that
and
was.
Obelix.
Yeah. So my recommendation is the Superman trailer from last week. That's right. I'm a DC fan. And Thunderbolts is good. The feeling is back.
The feeling's been restored.
Yeah, Thunderbolts was good. I saw that movie. Better with the Suicide Squad with James Gunn. You think tribalism in wrestling's bad? I have had 15 years of bad DC movies and Marvels, scoring all the goals, winning all the titles. But man, have they crapped the bed the last couple of years. So much so. Look, I actually really enjoyed Thunderbolts. I think it's really, really good. But I'm also questioning myself because the bar is so low now.
Yeah.
Is it really a good film? Or is it because I saw Multiverse of Madness?
Hey, I liked Multiverse of Madness.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you've kidded yourself.
No, I liked
You like
it.
good films,
No.
like The Batman, and you like good TV series, like The Penguin.
No, I really liked Multiverse of Madness when they came on screen and they were like, cameos, here are your cameos. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool, lovely cameos. Give me another cameo.
That's all it is
And
now.
I had a good time with it.
Oh, look, there's Professor Xavier.
And it's the X-Men theme.
Look.
It's John Krasinski.
Oh.
It's the fan casting of Mr. Fantastic.
The Robert Downey Jr.'s dead as Iron Man. Boo! Yay, he's back as another character. It's creatively bankrupt, and
I'm buying
DC is
it.
going
And
to
I'm
overtake
buying
you.
it.
DC is going to overtake you. Superman's going to be the best film ever made, and Fantastic Four is going to suck my balls.
Can I make a confession?
Yes, please.
So when I saw Thunderbolts last week, they played the first trailer for Superman ahead of it, and I get it. You know, when we did our review of Superman 4, The Quest for Peace over on Cutscene, and I was like, that sort of cheap nostalgia using the Superman theme for the John Williams score. Like, what a cheap pop that is. I saw it in a cinema with the surround sound, and I burst into tears. And I was on my own, and I was desperately trying to hide the fact that I was in a fairly packed cinema and I was crying because the Superman theme was playing and I was seeing Superman on the screen, and I was just like, oh, this is just the best thing ever.
If you're playing the WrestleTalk podcast drinking game at home, that is a shot. Luke has admitted to crying again.
In public. There was someone in the comments who was very mad that I cried in public.
Yeah.
Because that's not what a man does.
It's not acceptable.
He was very upset at me, and I'm going to assume it was a he.
Well, speaking of fan comments, I've got an email for you. So my friend Mike, who I used to work with at 4 Music at Channel 4, who I've referenced like quite a lot when we talk about in WrestleTalk Extra, that in that 2010, 2013 period, it was me and him were the wrestling guys in the office. Yeah. But he's also very knowledgeable about music. He's got a very good blog called Traveller's Tunes, if you want to go over and read his music reviews. And he emailed in, Fred Worst. Am I right? You know what jams my jam? Limp Bizkit. New metal, like grunge before it, was mostly turgid. Dreary guitars.
Oh, absolutely get out.
Dreary guitars and subpar lyrics that somehow defined an era. Subjective, perhaps. Toxic, absolutely. Grunge had Cobain and nu metal had Jonathan Davis saving its soul. Durst, at best, was a skid mark that even Blink-182 thought juvenile. His music was a never-ending kidney stone, and then he tossed in piles and a stomach ulcer by helping sign Stained and Puddle of Mud in his job as a record label stooge.
He thought Puddle of Mud was going to be the next Nirvana.
If dressing like Poochie and behaving like a Bang Bros dropout counts as punk rock, then sure, Judgment Day might be the most compelling dysfunctional family since Succession. That's Mike.
Yeah.
He disagreed with
I
your
see
Limp
that, yeah.
Bizkit chat on Tuesday.
There was someone in the comments on that podcast that thought I was gatekeeping music because I very jokingly referred to calling $3 Bill Yol the hipster choice of best Limp Bizkit album.
I think gatekeeping and the word gaslighting get banded about these days, when what you're saying is, no, I don't. What they want to say is, no, I disagree with you. But they, again, weaponize it and say, no, you're gatekeeping.
Well, here's the thing. So I think where your chap here is going to fall down in terms of the feedback that this comment section might give him is that I think there would have been a good 90% of people that would have agreed that nu metal was trash. Because it was. But that's what the beauty of nu metal was. And a lot of people... Do you know what the best thing about nu metal music was? Every nu metal artist did interviews where they said, we're not a nu metal band, we don't like nu metal music. That's the best thing about nu metal. It was an era-defining, terrible genre of music that I have got so much nostalgia and love for. And it takes me back to a time that it is bad music, but I love it because it... And a lot of times, Cold Chamber in particular, when they released their first album, knew that this was a bad genre, so they wrote a song called Big Truck. The song about a big truck. Like, they knew exactly what they were doing with that first album. And, you know, a lot of bands lent into the sillier aspects of it, and that's what makes it a wonderful genre of music. Limp Bizkit being, you know, certainly a big part of that. But where your chap is going to fall down is he's badmouth grunge. So while 90% of this audience will agree that nu metal was trash, 100% will not tell you that grunge was a bad genre of music, because grunge is beloved.
Yeah, I believe, Mike, you have wandered in with a couple of vinyls of Frank Turner, whatever drivel it is you listen to.
And it does sound like...
And you've come into someone else's home turf.
You're probably with plain white tees. I'm probably thinking you're winning this war. And I think you bad-mouthing the genre of grunge is going to do you no favours whatsoever.
But not all the comments are aggressive. We set a task, you know, as we have done for each episode so far. If you make it this far into the nonsense, you get a little secret code word that you slip into a comment, and you put it in there to prove to everyone else that you made it that far. The people who know. And last week's word was rice, after my rice cooker kind of thing that I've got. Nicholas Milton was probably my favourite. I was listening to this podcast in my car while next to me at a stoplight, Rice Baby was being played on. I immediately knew today was going to be a good day.
Yeah, anytime you can shout out Vanilla Rice, who himself released a nu metal album.
Vanilla who?
Vanilla Rice, to apologise. He released a nu metal album which has a nu metal cover of Ice Ice Baby. It's a song called Too Cold, and it is superbly terrible.
And it was also, we remembered Sabu, and we asked people to send in their memories of Sabu. And PK Star Punk wrote, back when my dad was around, they were doing the first ECW One Night Stand in WWE. My dad, an ECW fan, was the most excited for Sabu. And I had no idea who any of these people were, but it was the most excited I've ever seen my old man get for a wrestling show. I just rewatched his match against Cena at Vengeance 06 the other day. There really was something captivating about him. He's simply awesome. R.I.P. Sabu. Thanks for the memories to share with my dad, and thanks, boys, for the pod. Rice. It's the perfect use of rice.
It's the absolute perfect thing to do because, we try and cleverly sneak it in. But when you can just say it.
At the end of a really sincere, heartfelt story. I had to click read more for this. What's our word for today's hipsters going to be?
Surely we've got to try and do something around grunge.
Grunge.
Oh, no, because you don't want to get that mixed up in the people who
in
are...
the actual debate.
In actual debate about grunge.
I think the people who sat through the grunge chat are still here now.
Yeah, for sure they are.
So I think grunge is a good idea.
They're not even listening to this bit as well because they're furiously typing their comments in.
Grunge. Yeah, just grunge. Yeah. Just put grunge in a comment.
No, you know what? Big truck. Try and get big truck.
Oh, that's tougher.
That's tough. But that's where you got to get your smarts in. Try and get big truck into your comments.
Well, big truck is your
and don't talk
word of the episode.
Don't talk about the coal chamber track. Talk about anything that's not related to that coal chamber track and get big truck in.
I was at home for my mum's birthday over the weekend, and my sister said they're doing this big American thing at Brands Hatch. Should we go? They've got classic American cars, they've got like fireworks display, and they've got monster trucks. And my mum looked at me and went, Chappie, the monster trucks. And I was like, I want to see them. They go vroom vroom.
Can I give one last recommendation?
Yeah.
There's a superb podcast out there called Guys. Which is hosted by Brian Quimby, who actually also does a new metal podcast, the POD cast, which is very, very good. But he's got a show called Guys that is about guys. Mm-hmm. And he just takes a certain subsect of guys and does a whole show about them. So he's done wrestling guys, Simpsons guys, South Park guys, that sort of thing. He did Monster Truck guys as an episode recently, and it is excellent.
It bypasses every part of my hippocampus and goes straight to the core of my brain.
Yeah. Well, what you might find if you listen to Monster Truck Guys is that monster trucks just ain't what they used to be. And now
really? They've gone woke?
Apparently, yeah. Well, some people might say, and some people like, it's just not as great as it once was. But the discussion they come to is like, it's not as great as it once was because you're
older.
You're not 8 anymore.
I said the only way that I'll enjoy it as much as I did as a kid, because I reckon it's quite boring to sit through, is get hammered. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us here today. Please subscribe. We've got WrestleTalk News tomorrow. We've got Brain Busters.
Don't look at that camera. It's
coming.
Not on.
Oh.
This one right here.
I was working the hard cam.
This is your hard cam.
That's what they taught me to do down in developmental. We've got WrestleTalk News tomorrow. We have Brainbusters, our new game show launching on the WrestleTalk YouTube channel on Saturday. And 3 Count Money in the Bank predictions will be live on Sunday. And if you go over to our Patreon, you can get us doing a 3 count for Money in the Bank 2020, the greatest Money in the Bank match ever staged. Filmed, innovated.
Yeah.
But for now, I've been Ollie Davis. There's been Luca and DAD. Jam that jam.